It's that winter time where there's been a few nice little storms coming through and some of the beaches and reef is starting to get a lot more exposed. So in this video I'm going to run through a few little lure upgrades that I'm going to use on plugs in general, and I'm using a couple of GT ice creams, and then I'll run through a few different 1%ers as well. So here I've just got the classic GT ice cream. I've started using lure clips a lot more lately. Having said that, with a needle nose type lure like this GT, I think they're really helpful, particularly to avoid line twists. I'll run through it a little bit further later. So I usually put on a lure clip on the front which has got a barrel swivel. This is one of the Ocean Legacy style ones. Then at the back I'm going to change this hook setup. So they come stock with a great hook, however I like to extend that out just so it makes it a little bit harder for the Tailor to shake out. These plugs are usually 1 or 2 ounces, so when a Tailor shakes its head it uses the weight of the lure to sort of dislodge the treble. You still catch them perfectly fine with this, but if you're talking about increasing your catch rate, I make a few changes. So I'll keep on the split ring and then I'll put it in a barrel swivel. Here I'm actually going to use another one of these Ocean Legacy lure clips just so that I can change the hook later. So basically you just need 2 split rings, a swivel and a single hook. So some of these lures will come stock with a bit of rope to the single hook as well, which is perfectly fine too. However, for Tailor they can often bite through it, so this way it's a little bit more Tailor resistant. If you want to get the GTs with the I guess a little bit of nylon rope, that's perfectly fine for salmon or those non-toothy critters. See here with the lure clip I can just take it off, so for example if I was going to chuck on a treble or whatnot, I could just clip that straight back on. So by basically making a little chain here, it just makes it a little bit harder for them to throw your hook. I also prefer to use singles, particularly during the winter because of all the seaweed. It's also much better for the catch and release as well. So here we've got the skinny needle nose, which is a fantastic lure for Tailor, and I'm going to put on some wire core assist hooks. So these are often used for Spanish mackerel and whatnot, or when you're jigging for more toothy critters as well. So this will basically give you the same benefit as a nylon rope where it's harder for the fish to flick out, except these ones have a wire core, so they're not going to get bitten through by a big thumper Tailor. I've also got 2 single hooks on the back as well, so it will be helpful to avoid weed better than a treble. The hooks are also facing in towards each other, so you can skip that over some rocks and whatnot and not worry too much about getting fouled up. You don't have to make these changes for these lures. If you look at all the Facebook pages at the moment, you'll see that one of the biggest Tailor this year, which is over 90 centimeters, was caught on one of these lures, and it looked like it had the stock treble on the back. Again, I've got the Ocean Legacy lure clip here, and see here the lure spinning around. Basically, when you retrieve these lures will spin around in the surf in circles, so if you don't use a lure clip, you're going to get a lot of line twists, particularly because you're going to have your leader directly tied with an FG knot or a W-uni straight to your braid. So by using the lure clip you're going to avoid a lot of that line twist. Avoiding line twist means you avoid wind knots. It also means that the line will lay a lot nicer on your spool, so you'll usually get longer casts. A good upgrade for the SSM zip baits. I don't really like to put on single hooks on this one because I think it changes how it swims, so sometimes I'll chuck on BKK Fang style trebles just to give the lure a little bit of an upgrade for some nicer hooks for those winter Tailor. As for the monsoon breaker, as I've hammered home, I like to have at least 1 or 2 lures in my box where I've just got one single hook on the back, and I always have the hook tip facing up to the sky so it doesn't get snagged on reef or seaweed. Don't be afraid of fishing seaweed areas. There's always going to be those areas which are going to be absolute deal breakers where you can see it just floating there, but if there's broken seaweed or chunks of seaweed, throw out the lures with the single hooks or the surface lures like the plugs which you use on the top of the water column. You'll find the fish. It's where you get the big advantage over bait fishing, is that you can fish places like this where there's weed absolutely everywhere here, all chopped up, and you're still going to catch fish. You'll still lose lures, it'll still be frustrating at times, but you can still catch fish. Don't forget to pack a few of those big metals like a Cuda casting or a sea iron with a, which is around that sort of, 40 to 60 gram, where you can absolutely cast them a mile. Here as always, I've got the single hook on it, casting into the wind, crap load of seaweed, and you still be able to yank them in. You need to have a really good leader knot though. So some of the other 1%ers, I like to fish when there's cloud cover. So I think this will extend the bite in the morning periods and the afternoons. I reckon it'll give you an extra sort of 40 minutes each side. In cloudy conditions as well, I really like to use sort of like those yellow lures or gold medals, or that gold coloured GT ice cream would be perfect. Also, don't let the rain stop you fishing. I think I've caught most of my largest tailor during the rain or in rainy periods. Even when you're out there and it's pouring with rain, sometimes you'll find that they'll start biting just when the rain stops. Another thing to consider is to use an FG knot and some quality braid. So good braid means you get better casting distance, so avoid the sort of the 4 strand, go for your 8 strand or that little bit more expensive braid, because it will pay off in the end. With your leader length, you're not brim fishing, so you can get away with having a shorter leader. When you go to cast, you want that leader knot sitting just outside the last guide of your rod. That way that FG knot's not going to get caught up in any of the guides and cause any wind knots, and also you're going to get a longer cast because it's not going to slow down with the friction too. It's important you check the tides as well. You want to know what type of tide is coming in, if it's an incoming and outgoing, and also if you're fishing around reefy structure, you want to know whether you're going to fish alongside the reef or over the top. So I always check the tides. The other thing to consider is sand movement on the beach. So one spot may be really average, and then 2 weeks after a big storm, all the sand's moved out, reef is exposed, or there's a big nice gutter next to the reef. Finally, you generally catch a few less fish during the winter, but they're going to be bigger. So those cold mornings and those rainy days are going to be worth it. Thank you for watching. For more Tailor tutorials, please subscribe. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment section.